G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel Bonsai Works. It's repotting season and I usually kick off with repotting some minis. I've got two here today that I want to repot, and hopefully you guys can pick up some points, especially if you're new to bonsai and beginners. So this little tree you would have seen many times in my videos. It's nice and got its very small little mini that I'm just slowly building ramification on. And it needs to be repotted every year because it is in such a small pot and it's a Trident and roots are already growing out of the bottom of the pot. Usually a good indication it's filled the pot with roots and it's ready to go. So pretty easy to repot this tree. However, I found that this pot is a little small for it. It's really nice, but I'm contemplating changing its pot into a more green looking Tokoname Japanese pot. So even though this is a beautiful handmade pot here from Australia, I just think it might look better in one of those. See that green pot back there, something like that, but obviously a miniature version of that. So I'm looking at doing that for this tree, and we'll have a look at some of the pot selections I've got in the meantime. The other tree I want to try and do is this guy. It's a little plum tree. It's a nice little fat base. You can see the moss growing all over it. It's nice, starting to swell. The flowers should pop. I think it's a Prunus mume, I think they say it. I'm hopeless with names, but it's a nice white flower. Purpley green leaves usually when it sets in, but nothing. But it's just there for the flowers really, and it's coming up soon. Now this pot is blue. It's a nice pot, but it's very heavy for the tree. And again, I'm thinking of putting it into a shallower Tokoname Japanese green kind of colour pot, and I'll show you what I've got, some of the pots that I've got for these trees. Now that's the other thing, so that's two things. So I want to do these two trees and I'll show you how they come up. So in the meantime, what you need, make sure you've got, if you need to, this stuff is the mesh stuff that you put into the bottom of the holes for the bonsai, for the pots, where they go into. So make sure you've got that on hand. I always have a pair of pliers on hand, so when I wire the tree in, I can tighten the wire so it holds it in place. Make sure you got some wire ready, wire cutters ready. Most importantly, got your soil ready. Now, if you saw my previous video on soil, I've got buckets of soil over here waiting so that I can just bring it in and start filling up. I just have this little tray below here with me right now, so it just helps me contain the mess. So I've just got this on a stand so you can see better, but that just contains the mess. And really you're ready to go. It really is about being ready to go. Have a really root rake, which I don't have, which I'll go and grab, see? I wasn't ready. But have a root rake as well, ready so you can comb out the roots if you need to be. I usually always give my deciduous trees a wash of roots. So I've got my hose, I'll go over to my hose, spray it, and then we're looking good. So really the first step is, let's get the tree out of the pot, let's clean the roots, and then we'll see what pot it goes into. And that's the exciting part, because I am going to change pots, and that's probably the more exciting part than watching the tree being repotted. But pretty easy, you can move pretty quick. There's wire here holding it in, just cut that off, cut the little stub off, and this should just pull out. So you can see what I mean by roots, tons of them, right? And there's the pot, pretty easy. I'll put that pot aside. Got nice, I could probably comb this out with my hands really. Pretty easy. Now another little tip, especially for guys, is cut your fingernails before you do this, especially if you don't like to wear gloves. Very simple tip, but I'll tell you, the amount of dirt you get inside your fingernails if you don't, when you repot, is really annoying. So look at that, that's pretty simple, pretty easy. I'm going to go and wash this just to get all the soil out. I don't like usually having the old soil on there, so give it a wash and then I'll trim the roots. I don't need to trim them right now. I'll just make sure I wash them out and then trim them in a minute, so I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so they're nice and clean. This is what I mean by the root rake. You probably don't need to do it for this guy, but it's so small. But usually I just try and give the roots a bit of a comb out if they're tangled. I want to try and flatten as much of the roots as I can. I don't want them being intertwined and twisted up. So just give it a little bit of a comb out, because then you know how long things are. Sometimes they come out, which is in there, that's no problem. The good thing is the base is nice and flat, so it's got a really nice flat base, which is good, which is what I worked on quite a bit, but nothing too hard here. Nice sharp scissors. I just hold it down. You can go harder, you can go softer, up to you. But on Tridents I go reasonably hard because they're really strong and vigorous growers, so. Okay, so pretty flat, pretty easy, pretty done. Like that's it really. That's what I've got there, ready to go. Now let's have a look at the pots. Now I've got a couple, and here we go. I've got this lovely, beautiful Tokoname one. It's a round Tokoname. Looks really nice. Lovely colour. I hope you can see that. I don't know if you can pick that up in the thing. So let's have a look at what that looks like. I didn't mind this one initially. I thought that looked pretty good. So if I hold it up to you guys, you'll see what I mean. It might look not quite nice. Never know exactly what it's going to look like, but that's not too bad. Just make sure you guys can see the front dish of the trees somewhere around there. So it might look good. I'm a big fan of this pot. Have a look at that beautiful pot. And that looks quite nice in that pot too. It's probably what I'm leaning towards is this one, I think. It's quite nice. Again, beautiful pot. Suits the tree. Looks quite nice. I like it. So it's really tough. And I've got this one, but I'm not convinced of the lip. I think it makes it look, it kind of needs a stronger tree, I guess, in this pot. Maybe I'm thinking the prunus goes into this pot at the moment, but that's the other one. So let me have a quick look. I am tending to like this one, but I'm just going to have to look myself again. I think it'll look really good in that. And obviously the round one looks really good too. Tough choices. Very hard to choose. I'll have to know what your thoughts were, but we'll see what I choose in a minute. Okay. All right, so I have decided to go for this guy. Just want to show you the stamp if anyone's interested in trying to identify that one. I think it's a Yamuki. I'm pretty shocking with pot names, but Yamamuki, something like that. Anyway, or Yamafusa, one of those. But it's got a nice little hole for a wire to be tied in, so that's what I'm going to start with. Just want to get the position right on this tree. I think it's going to look really good in this pot. Let's get some soil. So it's a mess. So I've got a little scooper, like this little scooper thingy. I try and do a little bit of a mound where I'm going to put the base of the tree in. So try and mound it up. And then I don't want it to be in the middle, I want it to be just to this side, so the tree moves this way, so it fills in the gap. Give it a little, like a little wiggle in the pot so the roots can sink in, so there's not really too much air bubbles. And that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go a little bit more this way. Now the other thing is I want the tree to come forward as well. So this is your chance to really put the tree in the best position you want it to be in. Because I found with this tree it kept kind of falling away from the viewer. And now, by changing this angle, that's why you get your pliers, you just tighten the wire in. I should be able to hold it up. See that? Pretty good. So, pretty good. Now it's just a matter of filling the tree in, filling the soil in, just making sure it's right. Still not 100% happy, but I'm just going to try and move it a little bit more towards the right of the tree. Because it's got a nice big base around here. The round pot probably would have done better, but I just think it really looks good in this little shallow pot. So now we just top it up with soil. Now give it a little tap. Usually that just helps all the soil go into the pockets. And with minis, you can use chopsticks, a chopstick to really work the roots, to work the soil into the roots. And which I'll grab in a minute. So what I'll do is I'll get some chopsticks and work that in, and that's kind of what the tree looks like. Looks really cute. Looks really nice. And that pot is just beautiful. So that's what I'm going to work on this year and get it more ramified. I'm just thinking you might need to go a little bit more this way. So sometimes you make errors. You might have to go a bit more this way just so it's not falling over too much this side. So I'll just tweak that now and then we'll finish off the tree and I'll come back and show you the little prunus. Alright, so it looks pretty good now. Pretty happy with it. Well, let's give it time to get into that pot. We'll see what it looks like in the spring. I'll give it a water and then we'll get into it. This one, I've already cut the wires out of the bottom. It's been in this pot for quite some time and you can see the nice solid, it's pretty rock hard solid. So you need a bit of a clean up. So let's get some, I usually start with this, trying to get comb the roots as much as I can. Sometimes you can't, but you just keep persevering and you'll get into it. Sorry, the noise might be a bit annoying to people, the grating of stone against metal. You know, just comb out the top, comb out the moss. I work my way around the tree. Oh, it's pretty hard. Let's just comb out as best you can. I think I left this probably a little bit too long in this pot. You can see by the thickness of the base, the roots, it's really compact, but the tree's been doing well. I just had to repot it because the reason was I was watering it and the water was just sitting on the top. So it means to me it's pretty rock hard, compact. We need to do some root. We need to do some pruning. We need to do some root pruning. Again, I'll give this a wash. I wouldn't wash pines because of all the beneficial mycorrhiza. So, but deciduous trees definitely always wash the roots for me. The good news is most of the old, see how it's like coiled up, that's gone. Pretty easy, so it's really, really good to have that. We'll just cut those off. And I'm pretty happy with this. I'm just going to go give it a wash. And we'll be back to have a look at what pot we choose for this. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be that oval looking Tokoname. It'll look right nice in that. So yeah, I'm just going to give that a nice little wash and we'll come back. Alright guys, so nice and healthy, nice healthy roots. Gave it a bit of a trim. When you see some heavier ones, you probably can cut those off. The heavier ones aren't the ones that feed the trees, the finer ones. So that's pretty good. Can't remember where the front is. Either side looks good, to be honest. Either side has lots of nice foliage. This really, it's all about the flowers on this tree. I think initially I had that as the front. This is looking good too, from your end. Not really much, but it's either one or the other. So it's just, I'm just going to play around with it, clean up some of this moss, so I can see what the best nabari and etc. looks like. That's quite nice. That's nice, but the whole tree leans away from you. Can you see that? See how it's this way? That's the front. The whole tree leans backwards. I can push it forward, but then it doesn't look so good. I'll lean it too forward. That's a possibility. The reason why this was the front is the whole tree comes forward. It's got a nice base, nice width, nice nabari. So I might stick with that, and we'll just work on some wiring maybe in the future. But I really like this pot for it. I think this will look really nice. It looks a little shallow, but it looks really nice in that. I think it'll look stunning. We'll see what it looks like. I don't want to put it in the round pot. I don't think it doesn't do justice to it. It's going to be a real standout in this tree. It's actually good size for it, dimension-wise. I think it'll be good. The only thing is maybe in the future I've got to repot it a bit more because it's quite a shallow pot. But we'll try and do this one. So first is just get some wire to tie the tree in. Now I am planning to repot some of the trees behind me, but the big guys I repotted last year, especially the big ones, a couple behind me. There's a root over a rock there and a big giant one there. I've repotted them last year, and I found that probably only need to do it every second year. So I'm not going to do all of them, but I've got some other ones that I have to do. Like I've got some Japanese maples, a couple of my nice Japanese maples that I have to do. So stay tuned for that. And a nice trident I'm going to do as well. So if you want to see some bigger trees, that's coming up. Again, mound the soil up. Twist it in so it nicely goes into it. So yeah, the tree comes forward. It's usually a good thing. Now usually what happens with these trees, I put the tie at the back and tie it from the back so it's out of the way so you don't see it. Now, if you don't talk and have to do a video, this repotting takes probably 5 minutes each tree if you just weren't talking and you just got stuck into it. So, well worth it. Well, if you need to, you need to, right? Now, again, only repot if you have to repot. Don't do it because it's the right time of year and so on. So this tree needed it because the root mass was so heavy and thick. The other little guy needed it because it just fills the pot so quickly because it's in a shallow pot. Now that's all. I'm changing pots, and that's what I decided to do this year, change the pots these guys are in, which I'm really happy with. So that's really it. This is pretty much now simplified. Let's fill it up with some new soil. Now we'll get some chopsticks and work this one in. It needs to, but all in all, it's pretty quick and easy. Have your materials ready, have everything you need ready, and just get into it. This little tap technique is quite nice. I usually let 70 settle into the spots. Now, I will go and use my chopstick to work this in. I'll water the trees in and I'll show you the end product. Alright guys, so that's what that one looks like now, and I'll show you that when it flowers later in about a month's time, I reckon, it'll be in flower. Probably not even that, probably even earlier. It's really starting to swell the buds on it. So it's a nice little prunus. Now, this has come up a real treat because I changed the angle on it a little bit. So that pot with that little tree, it's looking really nice. I just want to make sure now it really develops the ramification on this guy. You're going to feed it as per normal. Hopefully the shallow pot makes the roots spread out a bit more wider. It's a lovely little mini. Might get a better background so we can have a better look at it, okay? Anyway guys, that's repotting a couple of little minis. I tried to explain why I do certain things and what happens, and so if you're a beginner, hopefully you picked up a little. It's pretty easy, don't be scared to repot, but do it for the right reasons. It's water doesn't penetrate the soil anymore, one of the trees been in there too long, the roots are filled up, or you're going to change the pot. You want it to be in, and the only reason I change the pots is because I want to get it in a better display or better combination of pot and tree, so that it can be in an exhibition and that I'm happy with. So I'm hoping this fills up a lot more over the coming year or two and really starts to ramify, so it looks great balancing this pot with this tree with this ramification. Whereas the prunus is all about the flowers. So if you have a good show at the right time of year, you can put it in, and it'll be beautiful in that display of flowers with in that pot. So anyway, guys, hope I've talked too much. Hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I'll be back soon. I'll probably just do a little clip out of just the tree with a better background. Okay, thanks guys, bye.